am going to talk about today is data merge. Okay. Now, I don't know, Edgar, have you used the data merge function in InDesign at all?
Probably once or twice in the past 3 years, so
okay.
Something I do a lot.
Well, I wanted to show how valuable this can be. Microsoft Word does the same thing, basically. And by the way, Chrissy just joined us, so
okay.
Malad's not here. He had a jury duty today. So what we got here is in Microsoft Word, you can link out to like an Excel document. You guys might be familiar with that. And it can change the text that you link it up to. Well, InDesign can do the same thing, but with InDesign, we have the full capabilities of all the design stuff that InDesign offers. So the example I'm going to use today is this project that we just did for Paul for the TIL meeting, but I've kind of gone a little bit farther with it. It was originally Edgar. I'm sorry. Can you see this right now?
Oh yeah, the Dave Folletti, New York City.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what we had here, we just had originally this a little fold-over card. It folds along this blue line, and it's like a little table tent for the event that you guys, anybody that went to this weekend. I'm just adding a little bit more to show you the abilities of this software. So usually what we'll start out with is we'll have an Excel list supplied by somebody. Okay, so I got this. Okay, usually one of the first things I'll do is I'll eliminate it down the columns to just the things that I really need. And if you hold up here on the letters, it'll select the whole column. We're not going to be putting these on the name badges, so I'm just going to go ahead and then just right-click and then just delete these cells. I really only need the first name and the last name. The other thing that I'll do is I'll usually scroll through the list and I'll find the longest of the first names and the longest of the last names, so I make sure to make the space big enough to accommodate that.
Okay.
So in this case, when I scrolled through here, I found the longest first name was Geraldine or Elizabeth, the same amount of characters. The longest last name was this Timmerman. Okay, so what you do is you come in here and you put in Geraldine and you put in Timmerman. I happen to just have David Folletti because I already set this up and did the whole thing, but then David and his wife RSVP'd at the last minute, so I had to just manually type this one in.
Okay.
But the same concept still works. The only problem that you have is the InDesign does not recognize Excel documents, however odd that is. They want you to do a save as, and under here, instead of an Excel document, they want you to save it. And this is the important thing to remember, because otherwise you're going to just not be able to move a step forward. It's a CSV file. Okay? Now there's various CSVs. There's this Macintosh one. We're not on Macs, so I just recommend doing this CSV.
Okay.
It stands for comma separated value.
Okay.
And so you do a save as of that. I've already done that. And what you end up with is this very plain looking Excel document. That's what it's doing, is it's taking out any formatting. If you remember, it had like blue and yellows and all sorts of different fonts going on. It just makes it all very basic. Just breaks it down to the most basic there is. Now the last thing I would suggest doing before you do this, especially if you have a large amount, is to sort it in some way that would make sense to either go back and fix one that might have gotten messed up when they're doing the cutting or the folding or the scoring, perfing, whatever might be done to these. If these are raffle tickets. So if they're raffle tickets, obviously you sort it by number. In this case, if we select this, it'll select everything within the table, and we go to Data, and we go to Sort right here. And this might look a little bit different in older version of Excel, but it's still under Data, and I think it's just a drop-down menu that says Sort.
Oh yeah.
Instead of a button here. But you say Sort, and what it's going to do is, if you notice, this black bar automatically dropped off the top two. It moved down to the next column. What it's doing is I have a default to say my data has headers. In other words, I've made header rows called first name, last name, and so on. And actually, whoever did this spelled name wrong, but it doesn't matter. So if you uncheck that, if you notice, the box will change to, so now it's actually going to sort first name and last name into the sort order, which we don't want. So you want to check this box, so it's only going to sort everything below the first name and last name. My data has headers right here. All right, so now you can sort by, and in this case, it makes more sense to sort by the last name, especially since couples will be sitting next to each other. And we're going to sort from A to Z. Now, if you had a whole bunch of the same last names, like when I do the stuff for options, I do their graduation announcements, and they have 1,000 students graduating. It's very likely that there's going to be at least 10 students with the last name of Smith. It's just that common. So what you can do is you can actually say add another level and say then I want it to sort by the first name. Okay? And you can keep going with as many levels as you want if you have more columns. But in this case, we only have these first two. So we hit OK here, and it's going to sort by last name. And then if you notice here, under Hagegorn, it goes H and then K, alphabetical, D and then S, and so on. I don't know if there's any more than 3 on any of these. Cinco, there is B, I, B, R, G, and T. All right. So anyway, so once we have that done, we can save it. I've already done all that, so I'm not I'm not going to resave it over it. So once we get into our InDesign document, I'm going to remove the data source. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to start as if you were just opening InDesign. So you make your design, all right? And as we discussed, you design it with the longest name possible. So I actually didn't do that. So actually, I'm going to do that right now. Geraldine, and it was Timmerman, right? And then back here, it's Geraldine Timmerman, okay? And then the last box is back here, which this one, Geraldine Timmerman. Okay, so that's good that I caught that now, otherwise it would have looked really retarded once those longer names got in there. So I'm going to size that accordingly. Okay, so now I know it'll fit the longest of all the names. So what I've done is I've made it so it looks like this thing was created especially for Geraldine Timmerman. But and this is great for mail merges, because if you've ever gotten a postcard where it looks like, wow, they actually designed this piece for me because they put your name on it, they're just using this. So under Window, down under Utility, excuse me, Utilities, there's Data Merge. Okay, so Window, Utilities, Data Merge. And I know for any of you, I think Chris, you might be the only one that has the older version of InDesign. It's still there.
Okay.
And it hasn't changed. So this window pops up, and in case you forget my instructions, it actually gives you step-by-step instructions. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it says, number 1, select the data source. Where do you do that? Right here. Okay. Select the data source.
Okay.
Okay, so I got my Tibby's guest list. Okay, so we see the 2 fields that we had, the 2 columns, first name and last name, or first name and last name. So what I want to do, select my last name, right, and literally just drag and drop onto it.
Cool.
Okay, select my first name, and literally drag and drop onto it. Now you'll see, oh my gosh, it just is totally screwed up. Don't worry, because if you hit preview, remember we sized it for the longest first name and last name, hit preview. Now it's Paul Rose now. Now as I arrow through this, you'll see it switched from name to name to name. But we haven't finished it because we still have the rest of it here. So we want to do Geraldine, first name, Timmerman, last name. And actually, I apologize. You don't have to drag and drop. You can just click on it. And then the last thing we got here. Okay, and then we got the Geraldine back here. Going to change that to first name. Timmerman, change that to last name. And again, it looks really bad, but if we hit preview, now we're going to see everything change all at once. You guys see that?
Is that creating its own layers? Or it's not even layers, it's just...
It's Christy was asking if it's creating layers, but it's just text boxes that are changing. So I have one text box here and another text box here. Now one thing, if you notice, it's very subtle, but on this top text box, I have you guys see how when I move it, there's a white outer glow around it. It's even acknowledging the outer glow each time I move it, each time we change through the names. So we can just keep coming through here, and you can scroll through, and there was that really long name right there, Robert Timmerman, and we know it fits.
Real quick, so do you have to print out each one? Because it looks like it's staying on page 1 only. Or does it actually, every ticket is a page, every name is a page?
All right, so that's the next step. So
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
you're jumping ahead of me there. So but that's okay. That's a good question. So yeah, it's only staying as one page. But right now what I'm showing you is good to just scroll through and kind of check these out, okay?
Okay.
So the last step, if you remember, there was steps 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Okay, the third step is right here. It says create a merged document.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you click on this, and what it's going to do is it's going to ask you which records. Do you want to do all of them? Or what I usually suggest, especially if you have a long list, just do like maybe the first 5 or something, right? Just so you don't waste all the time of it processing 1,000 records and for it to be wrong.
Right.
Now it's going to say records per document page. Okay, now this is a really important part. Now this is, it's going to do a single record or multiple record. In other words, do you want it to automatically step and repeat it for you like this? Do you want it to make it go 1, 2, 3, 4, or do you want it to go 4 up of the first one? So you can change that by multiple records layout right here. You could say, where is it? Multiple records right here. I guess it's like CorelDRAW. I don't know. I don't use CorelDRAW, so. But right now it's showing you single record. It's going to go 1, 1, 1, 1. Right? Page 1, 1, 1, 1. So it's going to repeat David Folletti 4 times on a page, or Paul Rose now 4 times on a page.
Okay.
You do multiple records. Now it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. If you look right here. So it's going to go Paul, then Eileen, then David, then Bill, or whatever the names are.
Yeah.
Now these are really important. I always keep these checked because there's no reason not to. Generate overset text report when with document creation. What that does is, remember how I said you pick the longest first name and the longest last name. Let's just say you missed it somehow and there was a name even longer than Timmerman.
Oh, okay.
Well, what's going to happen when Timmerman is there, all of a sudden it's going to look like this text box where it's flowing over. So this is going to tell you page 3 had an over text, page 7 had text going over, flowing over. Basically, it's like text is flowing beyond the box. And then alert when images are missing. I don't really know what that's about. I'm sure I could look that up some other time, but it's never come up. Now, this multiple records, it's important to come over here and actually indicate what are your margins going to be. Use these controls when you're doing multiple files based on your current layout for one record. So in other words, you're going to change the margins of the page to accommodate how you want it to go. And then lastly, you have your, do you want it to go rows first? In other words, left to right, then down and over. Or do you want it to go columns? In other words, top, bottom, like that. Okay, and then you want it to have spacing between the columns and between the rows. So there's all sorts of fun things you can do here. I'm going to not do multiple layout for this particular thing. I'm just going to do single records, okay? And we're just going to do the first 10, and I'm going to show you guys what it's going to look like. So hit OK. Really rapidly it did it because this was a particularly small document. And this report that I told you guys about says no overset text was generated when we're merging the documents. All right? So if there was overset text, it would tell you where. So we hit OK here, and I did something wrong. What did I do wrong? Ooh, I only did one. Let me back up here a minute. Okay. All records, document page. I must have unchecked something wrong. There we go. I don't know what I mischecked there, but I just went and did it again. So there we go. We can see that it's got multiple pages now. So we can go ahead and print these. Now in this case, this one wouldn't make sense to print one up because these, you guys can't tell by the screen unless you look at the rulers, but it's only 5 by 3. So it really would make sense to put, I think I could fit 4 up of this on a page. But I'm not going to do that with this example. I'm going to show you another one. But anyway, so you guys can see now how useful this can be, so you don't have to literally typeset 47 of these. I mean, imagine if you had a list that was 1,000, this would just be retarded. So we're going to close this one down. The other example that I had that I use on a regular basis for USC actually is, let me just go straight to it here. Okay, so USC, they do these name tags all the time. Okay, so you see something very similar again. This time I've actually already done the layout with the crop marks individually, and I'll show you guys why. And I've already linked it with the data merge, so I don't have to show you guys that all over again, but I did the first name and the last name. You can hit the preview and you can scroll through it and see all the first names and last names. Now the only difference here on this one is because they're so small, I do want it to fit 4 up on a page. And it has bleeds, which is really important. So I go ahead and I hit this, and we're going to do all records, multiple records. Now what I did is I already made my margins, have a 1/2 inch margin at the top and 3/4 of an inch margin on the left side. The bottom and the right I didn't really worry about because it's automatically going to adjust for those. And you can actually check this button and click Preview Multiple Record Layout. Oh man, and as long as InDesign doesn't crash on you, it works great.
When you're setting them up, 4 up or whatever up, you have to set up the page size beforehand.
Yes.
It won't automatically size a page.
No, that's what's important about this. I don't know if you could hear Christy's question, but yes, you need to actually size the document overall to be what you want it to ultimately print on. That's the only catch, and that's why I wanted to show you guys this one. I fought with this one because I was designing, I think this is like a little 3x4 sticker, and I kept trying to get it to step and repeat, and it wouldn't. And I finally realized I had to take it and then place it within my 8.5 by 11 document up in the corner and then step and repeat it. So again, we're going to preview it. I'm going to skip the preview this time because that seemed to crash for me last time. And I'm just going to hit OK. Give it a second here. Or 5. Okay, again, no overset text because I accounted for that this time. But if you see, it automatically stepped and repeated it. And it's going alphabetical by last name. There's a lot of them. And it's created all these pages for me to now go ahead and just send to the printer, or I can just make a PDF out of this for production, whatever I want to do. Yeah. So this one is 61 pages, so you do the math, 61 or 60 times 4. What is that, 240 names or something that you would have to hand typeset. So, huh?
That is nice.
Yeah. So it's a very, very useful tool for when it comes up. It comes up great for when you're doing letters and things like that where it says, Dear Edgar, we would like to invite you to the USC campus, blah, 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 blah. You can have that name repeat as many times as you want throughout the document with as many various formattings as you want.